Hey, welcome back to Zombie Tactics, today with another installment in the GunFu series, the extended title being Flipping the Bozo Bit. The reason for that title will become apparent as the video goes along. I always try to give you these interesting titles to just kind of make you go, what the heck is he thinking? But just by way of introduction, for those who haven't seen the GunFu videos before, these are all videos about my personal takes on firearms training, weapons manipulations, things like that. More or less my personal GunFu with maybe some tips to build your own personal GunFu. Well, why the title Flipping the Bozo Bit? Well, people that have watched my channel know that I'm a big proponent of seeking outside qualified training. By outside, I mean you're not watching videos and stuff like that. That's an interesting add-on to real training, but it's not training. And I don't mean you're practicing out at the range with your buddies or that you're getting a couple of tips from your friend who used to be a cop. I mean you're actually attending a training, preferably at a range where there's an instructor and you're going to learn some stuff that you didn't know before. And that's training, and then you take the things that you learn and you practice on your own. It's kind of like taking music lessons. You go to a teacher, and that teacher shows you, here's where you put your fingers to make a C chord when you're strumming the guitar. You figure out that when you're at the class or the lessons that you take, and then you go home and you practice it all week. Well, you probably can't practice all week with a gun, but you can practice often enough. Training is where you learn what you ought to be practicing. There are many, many good schools, both national and regional, all over the country, and I'll put links to a lot of them in the video notes and description here just to save time. I don't want to mention a bunch of names and take up your time that way. I am concerned, though, about the following. I am usually a person who I would much prefer to light a candle than to curse the darkness. I think that I like to have a very positive approach to things, and for the most part on my channel I have avoided getting into controversies with a lot of negativity or a lot of back and forth with people and things like that for that reason. I think it's much more important to point people in the direction of things that are good than it is to point out things that are bad. Your energy is better focused that way. However, if I can wax a little bit philosophical here, every garden has its weeds, and sooner or later you're going to have to do something about those weeds, or whatever it is that you're growing in that garden is going to have trouble, and eventually the weeds will take over if they are not, taken care of. You concentrate most of your time on growing your flowers or your vegetables or your fruits or whatever, but every once in a while you've got to knock down the weeds or the weeds will take over. And that's kind of what this video is about. The title, Flipping the Bozo Bit, refers to something that was a part of an interview process that I used to be at a company where we did these interviews where you'd interview someone and you were kind of waiting for them to say something that would flip the bozo bit, meaning that they just said something really stupid or that revealed that they didn't know as much about the job or the kind of work that we were hiring them to do as they might otherwise. Now you can think of this in the context that I gave before, that if someone says, oh yeah, I'm a guitar player, and you get talking to them about guitars a little bit and they don't seem to know anything about guitars. You mention a fret, which is one of the little metal things on the neck of the guitar that determines where you're playing. I'm trying to make this for non-musicians, and they don't know what a fret is. You mention tuning machines at the top of and that's at the top of the neck of the guitar where what's called the head is located, the little peg knob things that you use to tune the guitar. They don't know what those are. They claim to play the electric guitar, and they've been playing the electric guitar for, 25 years, and more than that, they claim to know all about the electrical guitar and how to modify it and get all kinds of great tones out of it. But yet when you talk about a simple concept like whether or not they prefer single coil or double coil pickups, they really don't seem to know anything about that. And in polite conversation, I'm not judgmental of people. I just say, you let something that slide. But when you're talking about something in a professional environment, that's very important. You can't let people get away with that kind of thing. You have to kind of flip the bozo bit on them and say, all right, that's not a person that really knows what they're talking about. Well, what are some of the things that when we're looking for firearms training that would cause us to flip the bozo bit? Well, keep in mind, it's a very competitive industry, and there are always people claiming that they're doing something a little bit more realistic or a little better, or we're more hardcore, or something that they do better. And that's just standard marketing fluff and standard advertisements. And frankly, when you sit most of these guys down and you get a couple of beers in them, they'll tell you everything that's wrong with every other person's training on the market. They just won't do it publicly because they're professional, and in many cases they're very good friends with these people, and these people, they all know about what each other are doing, and they know the problems that they have with each other because they've discussed these things. But it isn't something where they get out there and they say, oh, this company's so terrible and that company's so terrible, and avoid these guys and avoid these guys because we're the only ones who know what we're doing. So when you see that kind of an attitude, to me, that is an initial kind of flipping of the bozo bit. When somebody comes along and in maybe they make a 35-minute video, wonder what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about there, where about half of what video that they make is just about complaining and putting down other companies who they claim nobody else does realistic training but them. They're the only ones that seem to know what they do. It doesn't matter if those other guys have military or police experience or they've been in a million gunfights or whatever. Doesn't matter. We're the only ones that really know what we're doing, and all those other people are kidding themselves. That to me is a giant flipping of the bozo bit, because it can't simply be so. It can't simply be the case that there's one company out there in the middle of Indiana that's figured out the one true way, and that everybody else is an idiot and everybody else is fooling themselves. That doesn't make any sense at all. There may be variations on themes, there may be methods that they have that are better, but if you're out there saying that everybody else is wrong and you're right, and you won't even back it up with any real information, that's a giant place that you'd flip the bozo bit. These kinds of outlandish claims tend to come in a cluster. And so one of the other things that I look for is when somebody makes outlandish claims, particularly if those outlandish claims are on their websites. Now, what's an outlandish claim? An outlandish claim would be something like this: we're rated the #1 training company in the world by Department of Homeland Security. And there is a company in Southern California that I think is a joke that has that very statement on their website. The only problem with that is that the Department of Homeland Security doesn't issue such ratings. They don't rate firearms training facilities for civilians or military at all, and they don't issue any kind of a #1 or #2 rating or any kind of ranking of these kinds of firearms trainings at all. So someone who's stating that just boldly like that, wow, we're rated #1 by the Department of Homeland Security, the bozo bit gets flipped, because you realize that that person is, in my opinion, a liar, a fake. They're not to be trusted. If you can't trust them about something like that, you really can't trust them about anything else. People will routinely do things like this that are trying to find a competitive advantage, and they don't mind being a little bit shady or out and out lying to try to get your business. That same company that I'm talking about, the owner of that company has gone out of his way to really imply that he's been some sort of special forces or special operations, hush hush, secret, can't tell you or I'd have to kill you, operator in the military. Yet people have looked up his background, and he doesn't have any kind of a major military background at all. He was, I think, in the Air Force or the Army for less than 2 years. He didn't even complete a 2-year enlistment. And yet this guy's out there saying that he was a special forces guy and he knows what he's talking about. Those kinds of outlandish claims are things that you want to look out for. You also want to look out for people that they want to impress you by saying that they've got a certain certification, but you don't even know what that certification is, or you can't nail down what it is, and it seems to be a little bit cagey too. For instance, if somebody says that they have some kind of super duper counter-terrorist counter-terrorist training, and they're certified in that, and you can't find any reference anywhere else in the world to this organization that supposedly certified them. You don't know any other trainers that are certified by it. You don't know any other law enforcement that are certified by it. Everybody that you ask about it has never heard about it. And when you actually go to the trouble of researching the company, you find out that the company has one employee. That's all that company's ever had, and they have a P.O. box that's in the same city as these trainers that are claiming to be certified by this company. That's some big deal that they're certified, counter-terrorist by some mail drop company. Bozo Bit goes flipped on immediately, and you know that you want to avoid these people. There are just too many other good choices available. Again, links that I'll have down in the video description. Almost anywhere in the country you'll find these companies or an adjunct instructor or a company associated with these companies. They can give you good firearms training that you don't need to worry about spending your money with somebody who's a bozo, who's a faker, who wants to make up some kind of record and pretend that he's like some kind of special forces ninja guy or whatever. You don't need to do that. You need to avoid these idiots at all cost, in my opinion. This is part one of this video, and I know I'm already over the magic 10-minute mark that some of you complain about. So I'm going to continue it with part two. And in part two, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about another factor having to do with flipping the bozo bit, and this is one that I call moron statistics. So look forward to that one maybe in a couple of days. But for now, that's zombie tactics. As always, keep your powder dry and always aim for the head. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.